Hi, welcome to this episode of History Hunters. We are in Monterey, California, and I decided to check out the Monterey City Cemetery. Beautiful cemetery here. It's very green, in the middle of summer, foggy overcast. No surprise. But there's at least 3 celebrities and people of historical significance that I wanted to visit the graves of here on this episode of History Hunters. It's actually a Sunday morning. It's about 11 o'clock and there's great overcast here in the skies above Monterey. I wanted to check out this cemetery. One of the graves I wanted to find is of architect Charles Sumner Greene. He was famous for designing the famous Gamble House in Pasadena. It was the house that was featured in Back to the Future as Doc Brown's house. He was the one that designed that particular structure. He's actually buried here at this cemetery. There are some crows here that don't want me to be here. Okay, we're going to find Charles Sumner Greene's grave. Charles Sumner Greene was an architect during the arts and crafts era of architecture. So underneath this tree with this very loud crow is the grave of Charles Sumner Greene from 1867 to 1957 with his wife Alice Gordon White Greene. After they married in 1901, they honeymooned in Europe and her native England. Charles Greene and his younger brother Henry Mather Greene were born in Ohio and grew up in Boston. Together they designed houses and larger-scale ultimate bungalows as prime examples of the American arts and crafts movement. It is said that their homeopathic physician father had influence in their design as he was concerned about the need for sunlight and circulating fresh air, so they incorporated these elements into their house designs. Charles and Henry studied architecture in Boston in the 1890s and intended to apprentice with architectural firms in Boston. They did that for a while, but when their parents moved to Pasadena, Charles and Henry followed. On their way to California by train, they stopped at the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, where they were exposed to Japanese architecture. Charles became influenced by the Japanese designs that he saw while visiting the 1904 Louisiana Purchase Exposition in St. Louis. The brothers started their architectural firm of Greene & Greene in Pasadena in January 1894, eventually designing ultimate bungalows such as the 1908 Gamble House in Pasadena, generally considered one of the finest examples of residential architecture in the country. They had also designed other landmark ultimate bungalows, such as the Robert R. Blacker House in Pasadena. The interior of the Blacker House was used for the interior shots of Doc Brown's house in the movie Back to the Future.
Do you know what this means? It means that this damn thing doesn't work at all.
Doc, you gotta help me. You were the only one who knows how your time machine works.
The Greenes also designed the Thorson House in Berkeley. Such bungalows were completely customized down to the light fixtures, furniture, even woven textiles. In 1911, the Greenes worked on their largest design, the Mortimer Fleischhacker House in Woodside. In 1918, a businessman named D.L. James commissioned Charles to design a stone house on a bluff in Carmel Highlands overlooking the surf. Charles designed the granite house, called Seaward, and supervised the construction over a 5-year period. The Greene brothers were masters in their design but received little acclaim. Their firm dissolved in 1922 when Charles moved his family north to Carmel, and Henry stayed in Pasadena and continued designing homes on his own. Henry died in 1954 and Charles a year later. Henry is buried in San Gabriel, California. Up here you'll find the grave of his father, Thomas Greene. He came from Cincinnati, Ohio, died in 1931. And his mother, Leila Ari Anna Greene, 1844 to 1936. What'd you do?
Crows don't like banana.
How do you know?
Because I gave him some and it got stuck on his beak and he flung it off and went, ah! And then warned another crow Don't come here. You don't want this stuff. Look, he's up there.
Well, here's one over here.
Yeah, that's the one that got stuck on his.
So just in case you don't think that this cemetery in Monterey is very old, look at this William Plyburn. He was born in 1820 and he died in 1858. So if you like Monterey Jack Cheese, you're going to find this grave over here to be interesting. So over here you'll see this large monument that says Jacks. This contains the plot for all the Jacks who came over from Scotland. And over on this side it also just says Jacks. But the man I want to talk about today is right here. His name was David Jacks. He was a native of Scotland. He was born in 1822 and he died in 1909. He came to California during the California Gold Rush in 1849. David Jacks started out as an arms dealer. He was attracted to Monterey because this at one time was the capital of California before the Bear Flag Revolt. He was an arms dealer. He later became a wealthy landowner here in the Monterey area. He started farming and then he started developing what is now known as Monterey Jack Cheese. Monterey Jack Cheese is one of the 4 cheeses supposedly created in the United States. Its official name was granted by the Food and Drug Administration in 1955, but that doesn't mean that Monterey Jack had not been previously used as a name. Did David Jacks really invent Monterey Jack Cheese? Some say yes, others say no. The Monterey Jack cheese was brought in from Spain through Mexico by the Franciscan monks in the 1700s. They called it Queso Blanco País, and Spain may have got the idea from Italy. Others credit Dona Baranda or Domingo Pedrazzi of Carmel Valley. The story involving Dona Baranda has her making cheese in an adobe building that is still standing and selling the product door to door to support her 15 children, herself and her husband, who was crippled by an accident. It's reported that she sold her cheese to David Jacks, who started manufacturing it as Jack Cheese using milk from his 14 dairies. He sold the cheese at his store and began exporting the cheese overseas by ship as Monterey Jack. Others say that Jack and Monterey Jack doesn't refer to Mr. Jack at all, but because of Domingo Pedrazzi of Carmel Valley was making cheese by the application of pressure with a press, or jack, hence Jack Cheese. He developed Pedrazzi's Jack Cheese, later marketed as Del Monte Cheese, a name which is still used in 1955. And I believe this is his wife, Mary Christina Jacks. She came to Monterey in 1841. She lived until 1917. But just to think, the creator of Monterey Jack Cheese, buried right here in Monterey, California. So now we're going to look for the grave of Steve Cochran. He was an actor who had a controversial lifestyle, appeared in hundreds of movies and TV shows. So as you can probably tell, the airport's kind of busy today. A number of planes are taking off. I hear them and only can see a certain few that are up in the sky, up in the clouds. But the fog is pretty low today. But I was having some difficulty finding Steve Cochran's grave in this area because most of the gravestones are actually worn off so bad you can't even read them. I don't know if it's due to the salt air here, but these are almost unreadable. But then the GPS told me exactly where he's at. He's right here, actor Steve Cochran. Lived from 1917 to 1965. Steve Cochran was born in Eureka, California, but he grew up in Laramie, Wyoming. He was the son of a logger. While he was in high school, he spent a lot of his time in athletics and basketball, but he actually worked as a cowpuncher and railroad station hand. He was attending the University of Wyoming in 1937 when he decided to just quit and go to Hollywood to become an actor in films. And like a lot of people that try this, he actually succeeded. I know a lot of people think that they're going to go to Hollywood and become big stars, but he actually became a big star. Cochran appeared in 60 films and was usually typecast as a slick and sleazy talking gangster or villain. He appeared with the biggest names in Hollywood. Cochran was performing in the touring company of Without Love with star Constance Bennett when producer Samuel Goldwyn saw the virile young man on stage and immediately saw his star quality. He made his film debut in 1945 in Booked on Suspicion, an installment in the Blackie Boston series starring Chester Morris. Some of his roles were pretty humorous, like the time that he faced Danny Kaye in the boxing ring in The Kid from Brooklyn in 1946.
Make up your mind.
He was notable as a mobster in the 1946 movie The Chase with Robert Cummings and Michelle Morgan.
That's all right. You're a good barber, Miss Cornish.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Rowan.
How do you feel? I mean, how's it feel being a barber? Cutting men's hair. It feels good, huh? And look at her. Hey, she's blushing.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Roman. You moved.
But you didn't. Quick enough.
Probably his best-known film role was in 1946 when he performed in The Best Years of Our Lives. He played a man who was having an affair with Virginia Mayo while her husband, Dana Andrews, was off to war. And it was a very popular film. In the movie Come Next Spring, he played a more serious role, a husband returning to wife Ann Sheridan after he abandoned her and the children.
Mom, you spilled the water!
Go in and wash. Get ready for milking.
Hello, Bess.
Why are you here, Matt?
Bess, I've been a lot of places these last few years. I've been all the way to New York City, and I've been all the way out to California. I found out that whiskey tastes about the same no matter where you are. And last 3 years, I've been wondering what my wife and daughter was doing. I didn't know about him.
He appeared with Anne Bancroft in Fear is the Hunter. Cochran was also in The Damned Don't Cry with Joan Crawford. He also performed in a number of Western movies, including the 1950 movie Dallas with Gary Cooper. Cochran also appeared in Raton Pass with Patricia Neal and Dennis Morgan. He was also in Contral's Raiders with Leo Gordon. In the movie Of Love and Desire, he played the romantic interest of actress Merle Oberon. Cochran also appeared in Private Health 36 with Ida Lupino, Howard Duff, and Dean Jagger. He was also in the cast of Operation Secret with Cornel Wilde. He also played with Carmen Miranda and Groucho Marx in Copacabana in 1947. He was memorable as Ed Summers in White Heat, a James Cagney film from 1949.
Ed.
Still got nerves?
In 1951, he played a member of the KKK in Storm Warning with Ronald Reagan and Doris Day. Cochran's name is immortalized on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, where he has a star. In his private life, Steve was what many would call a sleazy character. His notorious womanizing often found him at odds with some jealous husbands and boyfriends of the women that he was messing around with. He lived recklessly with women and alcohol, gambled, loved fast cars and planes, and his luxury yacht, appropriately named the Rogue. He partied hard with booze. He was ticketed once for buzzing his aircraft low over houses. He was also arrested for assaulting a man with a baseball bat and for tying up and beating an aspiring singer who came to his house for an audition. His 3 marriages didn't hold out. His first wife was Florence Lockwood, who gave him his only child, daughter Zandra. His second wife was Western film actor Kay McKenzie. The last wife was Jonah Jensen, a Norwegian immigrant who was 19 when he was 44. It was once said that if Cochran made a movie with a woman, he likely went to bed with them. His reported conquests included Joan Crawford, Mae West, Ida Lupino, Jane Mansfield, Mamie Van Doren, Merle Oberon, Yvonne DiCarlo, Kay Kendall, Barbara Payton, and Yvette Vickers. Prior to his death, Cochran was obsessed with a movie project dubbed Captain O'Flynn, the lusty tale of a sea captain who set sail with an all-female cast. In June 1965, Cochran set sail aboard his yacht to scout filming locations, taking with him 3 young females from Acapulco, ranging in age from 14 to 25, as his all-girl crew. They encountered a bad storm that damaged the mast and left the ship floating aimlessly at sea. Cochran tried to make the repairs, but he grew ill. The girls had no idea how to set sail to land and did their best to care for Cochran, but he took a turn for worse and he died on the boat. For 10 days, they drifted at sea with Cochran's body rotting in one of the 2 sleeping cabins. It was a sensational worldwide story when the women were rescued off the coast of Guatemala with rumors of poisoning, but the autopsy revealed that he died of a lung infection. He was only 48 years old. He is here in Monterey because he loves sailing here. He had lived in the area for a while and worked in a Del Monte sandpit near here when he was an aspiring actor in a traveling Shakespeare play. Cochran's widow was given only half of his estate, which only amounted to $25,000, which she split with her daughter. I want to thank you for joining us on this episode of History Hunters. A short visit to the Monterey City Cemetery. We always would appreciate hearing what you thought about the celebrities maybe that we talked about today and some of the historical figures that we featured. We'd always love to have you give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already done so. Thank you so much.